All right. We are back again. Welcome to More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I'm Jordan Smith.
And at the time we're recording this, it is the Sunday night before Thanksgiving.
That is true, yeah. Seth here has celebrated a little bit early, but he will do so again with more family. Because you were telling me right before we started that you kind of celebrated a little bit with some family, and then later in the week you're doing it again with some other family.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and are you doing something special too?
Uh, in a way, yeah, because most of my family during this week is in another state. My brother, my mom, and my sister-in-law, they're all out in Virginia right now. My sister and her husband, they are in Maryland. So right now it's just me, but I've had some invites from friends and their families to do something with them. So I won't be by myself on Thanksgiving. I just won't be able to do any of the traditional things I would have done with my family.
All right.
So what about you? Does your family do anything for a tradition on Thanksgiving?
It's a pretty simple, straightforward thing. Big meal, some fun with the family, only some football, which is the big topic of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so November, and that means it's mid NFL season. And so this is our new format for the show. We are pretty much doing a sort of table talk format where we discuss our answers to some questions, which I have written down and I have shown them to Jordan.
Yep.
And so we'll pretty much, just give our honest answers, go back and forth. All right. So the first question that I wrote down, probably because of the sport's popularity, I guess, what
Sure.
makes football so appealing?
And for those who might need clarification, we're talking about American football, not soccer.
Or as it's also known, international football. So yeah, thanks.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, what makes football so appealing? The first thing I wrote down for this was that there are a lot of people out there, for one reason or another, that have a competitive nature. So, they love seeing competitions or some form of rivalry going on, whether it be with themselves or somebody else. That competitive side of them really gets amped up when they see a game like this.
Okay. I wrote down a couple things. Well, I think I like the concept of the game. How I guess how fast paced it is.
Mm.
How it's not as predictable. How it keeps moving. Another thing I think I like about it is how things can turn around quickly.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And one specific thing I said I liked about it was the sort of mile marker concept. That was the verbiage I used.
Sure.
Um, they have the thing with the first downs, the idea of breaking up a big ultimate goal into smaller, more realistic ones. I think is a smart thing.
Oh, I definitely agree. It's kind of like life. Just take it one step at a time.
Yeah, in a way. And so then the next question I wrote down was probably because it's such a hot potato issue in our culture, perhaps. So
Yep.
I wrote, are the rules of the sport too unrealistic or strict?
Well, for me on that one, it's hard for me to say that the rules are either one of these things, though I'm sure things can be slightly altered over time. I think the problem mostly lies in how the rules are enforced, or in many cases, not enforced. Many people have pointed out over the years that the referees are not always consistent with how they oversee the game or how they are or are not calling out penalties. And this usually happens when the refs seem to be only calling penalties on one of the teams throughout most of the game, which would naturally give the other team an advantage. And another infamous issue about the refs that people like to acknowledge is when there's a very obvious moment where the ref should have called something and yet they didn't. And one example I like to bring up whenever I'm talking about this with somebody was, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was the game between the Rams and the Saints that was the final game before the Super Bowl, where one of them would be going up against the Patriots, I think it was.
New England Patriots. New England Patriots.
Okay, so you know exactly where I'm going with this. There was a play that was very divisive because the Saints were going to catch a ball and possibly go on to the Super Bowl. And one of the members of the defense obviously ran into him, causing pass interference. But infamously, the penalty was not called, and that ultimately cost the Saints the game.
And perhaps the most frustrating thing about that is because this happened during an overtime, and so according to the rules, the coach couldn't throw the challenge flag.
I didn't realize that was a rule. Wow. Because I definitely would have thrown a challenge flag now that you mentioned that. But apparently they can't.
Yeah, it's one of the overtime rules is no coaches challenges, booth reviews only.
I feel like that is one rule I would probably change then, because I feel like that takes away the coach's say in something in case a moment like that arises.
Well, eventually they did come to the conclusion that it was a bad call. But at this point, it's really difficult for me to say like a definite yes, they're too unrealistic or strict, though on occasion I might see a replay of a little contact or somebody stumbling out of position or something, and boom, a flag gets thrown. And I'll think, come on, that's not fair, or something. Though to be fair, the league, I think, has made some efforts to fix problems in officiating since things like that. And even I remember watching something about, there was one time a controversy happened at a Thanksgiving game in Detroit when the Lions hosted the Steelers. The game went into overtime. Jerome Bettis, he was the guy calling the coin toss. And
okay.
And to be clear, he said, switched it to tails. The coin, I guess, at that point was pretty much up in the air, and the officials said it was heads. But technically, only his call was tails.
But they still gave it to him because he started to say heads first?
Well, the officials said it was heads. He didn't double check it like they do now. This was pretty much what led to that being a regular thing, the double check.
Yeah, I would definitely investigate that afterwards if something like that happened. But if you're saying that they did start changing things because of moments like that, then hey, they're making progress.
I think the rule now is there have to be multiple officials present for the coin tosses, and they have to double check the call before it's thrown.
Okay.
Yeah,
that I like.
And then the third question I wrote was, is the game more dangerous than not? This is probably something a lot of people would say yes to. If you probably think of, parents' concerns about injuries, or maybe particularly brain injuries, and you think maybe about the movie Concussion, based on the true story of Dr. Bennett Omalu investigating concussions and brain injuries related to football.
Okay, yeah.
And if you were to ask me at this moment, I would probably say no, because there's a lot of physical conditioning that goes into that goes into preparing for a season or a game. A lot of workouts, a lot of weightlifting sessions, a lot of intense physical activity and muscle building stuff or whatever.
So it can still be a source of motivation for them to work out or get fit or whatever.
They're not just going out there without training or just going out there in their street clothes and just winging it.
Well, no. They do have a lot of padding and such, helmets, of course, that seem to improve in design over time. But it definitely is no secret that football is one of the more dangerous sports out there. Now, granted, most, if not all, other sports have some way for the players to end up injuring themselves. Like in tennis, they can still plant their foot wrong and twist their ankle or something. But football, based on what I've seen, seems to have both the most frequent injuries as well as the most painful. And this is most likely due to how much force players use when they end up colliding with each other, whether it's intentional or not. And sometimes the injuries are so bad that they can ultimately end a player's season or worse, their whole career. But when I usually talk about different injuries, one that always came to my mind, I think it was a Bills game years ago where two Bills players were charging somebody from the other team from two opposite sides. And when that player moved out of the way, the two Bills players accidentally ran into each other head first. And as a result, their necks instantly bent backwards in a way that was not comfortable. And I don't remember if it was like a career ending injury or not, but I remember, I think it might have been a news story that simulated just exactly how their neck moved, and it was not very appealing to say the least.
And you probably don't even have to be the most involved or most active athlete in a game to get seriously hurt. I know. Did you ever hear of the story of the pro hockey goalie Clint Malarchuk?
I might have, but reiterate. Or rather,
So this happened in, I think it was March 1989. He was playing goalie for the Buffalo Sabres, and I believe, if I'm right, a teammate got his skate accidentally slit against his neck and slit it bad, and he lost 1.5 liters of blood.
I don't even know if I want to imagine how painful that was, because just a blade, regardless of where it comes from, can definitely be painful. But if it's sliding across from somebody's foot, there's going to be some force behind it.
He thought he was going to die, but against the odds, he survived.
Well, I imagine they instantly had people coming on to try and stop the bleeding, get him to a hospital. So as long as they follow the correct procedures, then hey, I'm just happy he's alive after that.
So then I wrote down what can and should be done to make the game safer for players and the people around them.
Well, in response to that, I had two thoughts. The first being to improve on their padding and safety gear whenever possible. Because, yeah, it's already really good, but there's always room for improvement, I think. And the other would be to maybe not have so many people really close to the sidelines. And this would be done to avoid players, for example, running into them when they accidentally fly off the field at such an intense speed. Because oftentimes, if they run out of bounds or if they're catching a ball just at the side of the field and there's a big crowd right there, chances are they're going to run into somebody. And you often see people stepping out of the way or something. But then it can also prevent outside interference should that ever come up. And there was an infamous moment, I forget which two teams it was. I want to say it was the Jets and the Dolphins, maybe, where one player was running down the field, like right at the edge of the sideline, and a coach from the opposite team deliberately stuck his leg out and tripped him. So it's like if they made it so people had to take a few steps further back, then maybe something like that would not happen.
You can go on YouTube and see at least one compilation video of sideline reporters getting run into.
Oh,
so
sure
it's
yeah.
So it's probably not as unusual as a lot of people think or would like to think.
Oh, sure. And it definitely happens. Like, you probably won't see it all the time, but compilation videos like that really would show people just how often it does happen.
Well, it's difficult for me, honestly, I think, to give an informed answer to this question, but I will try to offer something, though.
Okay.
I'm not really that acquainted, I don't think, with with the technology and the nature of the equipment that's used.
Sure.
Probably the easiest idea would just be to put more padding inside their equipment, like on the inside of it.
Sure.
Like maybe foam, like foam padding.
I'm not entirely sure on everything with how the padding is constructed. I know on the outside is a tough, I don't know if it's plastic or something, but it's very durable. And I would imagine there's some soft cushioning on the inside, but I cannot say that for a fact at the moment.
Well, I know NASCAR has used some foam in the outside walls of racetracks pretty much since the fatal crash of Dale Earnhardt Sr. They've used like an outer layer of iron and used a foam interior to kind of cushion the impact of cars running into it.
Sure.
Which, as far as I know, has made that sport safer.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of safety procedures in place because they're going at least 100, maybe sometimes depending on the track or car, 200 miles an hour with a bunch of other vehicles going the same speed right next to them. So they got to be on their toes constantly. And even then, there's still going to be a lot of crashes and a lot of incidents where people might get hurt, would it not be for the safety procedures.
This question, I think, this is the last one I wrote down, probably twists things a little bit, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a hard hairpin turn, so to speak, you could probably say. But I think it's probably something worth bringing up, though.
Sure, go right ahead.
You probably know what it is. You've probably seen it.
Well, I do, and I have an answer written down, but obviously no one else knows what the question is.
True. So the question is, which does cheerleading do more? Add to the excitement of the game or cheapen the women who do it?
Well, for me, in a way, I think it actually does both. In terms of adding excitement, it's pretty much what they're there for, to cheer on the players so that they'll be more energized and often to get the audience even more excited for the game in general. They're probably also there for their overall visual appeal, which can be seen as a double-edged sword, if you will. Yes, more people might watch the game just to see the cheerleaders and whatnot, but that would also mean that they're being used in a visual way that would ultimately make them uncomfortable. Granted, the camera doesn't usually focus on them for very long, but when they do, there is a good chance that a few people are excited to see them, but for the wrong reasons.
I guess I would lean on the latter side, the cheapen the women side, because I have I wrote a few specific bullet points to pretty much justify.
Okay.
So one thing I said was they're not out there helping with the game. So I would probably elaborate on that and say they're not like coaches, and the players aren't performing better or worse depending on how well they're performing or how much they're involved. And that probably would answer elaborately the second point. They're not necessary. And then I said, maybe it cheapens the players. When they do well, the cheerleaders cheer more. Or at least that's what I think.
Okay, I get where you're going, yeah.
I don't know if any of us or any of you out there could think of a moment when a player's had a rough game, a disappointing result, and the cheerleader is like, that's okay, you did fine, you did great. And so when you've got cheerleaders involved, it can really put players probably in a position where they feel like they have to perform in order to be somebody or to be loved.
In some cases, that can be, yeah.
I got kind of curious about the terms of the contracts that these cheerleaders sign, and so I found actually a very detailed list. I could probably I'll put a link to that in the description so you and everybody can read it at their own leisure or whatever.
Okay.
But I guess I'll highlight just a few or a couple or so. And so the first one, apparently cheerleaders were forced to do a photo shoot that required, as part of the criteria, for them to pose topless.
Ooh. That would have been an instant red flag for me. I would have instantly said, no, I'm not going to be a cheerleader if I'm going to be made to do this.
One similar one said, cheerleaders are required to attend events in which they wear bikinis and are auctioned off.
No.
But here's something that makes it ironic for me. So one part of the article said that a cheerleader, got busted for being photographed in some sort of lacy getup or something. So I think there's some hypocrisy here.
She got busted for that when some of them have been required to not have anything.
More or less, I guess.
Yeah, something is definitely backwards there, and I do not like it.
Now we're going to make it, I guess, a little more fun, and we're going to do a little game. I have a little quiz that I thought up to give to Jordan today.
And I have 5 questions written down for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so my quiz is a sort of what team quiz, keeping with the theme of football. So the answer to all my questions, all these questions, by the way, are about NFL teams being involved in scripts in movies and television. And the answer to each of them is one or more NFL teams.
Okay, hopefully I get at least one then. Because I feel bad because a lot of the times when you quiz me on something, I just don't know. And it's like, I should know. But we'll see.
I'm going to try to make it easier for you.
Okay.
All right, so my first question. The movie The Blind Side tells the true story of Michael Orr, who wound up being drafted in the first round of a draft by what team?
You know, I might know this one because I actually have seen that movie. And I want to say he was drafted to the Baltimore Ravens?
That's right.
Okay, so I do remember that one correctly. Whew.
Oh. And you saw that one?
Yeah, I've seen it at least once or twice, and I do remember some stuff from it, like how, or rather the character playing Michael, so it might have happened. He was having multiple flashbacks throughout the movie of different events in his past, especially when he was young. And then there were compilations of, trying to think of what the actual term is, like a scout would be looking at footage of him playing, and they laughed in good ways at how he played, and they all wanted him to join their teams. And then at the very end, I think it showed actual footage of the real Michael being drafted onto the Ravens.
Yeah, there was a clip at the end of the announcement when he got picked.
Right. I do remember that.
All right, on to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the hit TV series This Is Us, the Pearson family is die-hard fans of what team?
Okay, so this one I definitely should know too, because my mom and I watch This Is Us.
Oh, my mom's a fan as well.
Right, so I feel like I should know what team this is. I'm struggling to remember though, because it's been a while since we've seen an episode. Because especially with the pandemic, their episodes were kind of scattered a little bit. And
Yeah,
I
I
think they
think
had
the next season. I think the next season's not supposed to come until next year.
right, and I think it's supposed to be the last season.
Yeah,
Okay, so since it's been a while, I honestly don't remember which team they are fans of.
yeah. Well, I'll help you out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, this team has been probably described as the Iron Curtain team, and they've included players like Terry Bradshaw, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, Ben Roethlisberger.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
Okay. It's about to say I definitely recognize Bradshaw, Palomalu. So it's like, oh yeah, then it's the Steelers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like This Is Us too.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next season.
Okay. All right. In the film Jerry Maguire, now this I haven't seen to be clear, but I do know about it though.
Okay.
So the character, the NFL player played by Cuba Gooding Jr., was on what team?
Now, I haven't seen this either. Would you be able to give me some sort of clue?
Yep. Players have included Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, and I believe Kyler Murray. Hail Murray. Remember the Hail Murray?
Yes. I do remember, or rather recognize the name Fitzgerald. My first thought for some reason was the Dolphins, but I don't think that's right.
Carson Palmer has also played quarterback for him.
Oh, the Packers?
Nope.
It's not the Packers? I could have sworn he was on the Packers.
All right. They lost Super Bowl 43 to the Steelers.
Well, the Steelers have been in plenty of Super Bowls. Trying to think, what other team was Carson Palmer on? Shoot.
All right, you want to know?
Yeah.
It was the Arizona Cardinals.
Right, he was on the Cardinals. That's the other one.
All right, well, good effort.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Maybe you'll know this one. On an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, Deborah discovers that a past Super Bowl, has been recorded over their wedding video.
I remember that
Who
episode.
were the two? Ah, good. Who were the two teams that competed in said Super Bowl?
Now, that's the detail I don't remember, but I do remember that episode taking place because they were sitting on the couch watching their wedding video, and all of a sudden it cuts to the football game. And of course, she gets very upset.
All right.
But I honestly don't remember which two teams it was.
All right. So, okay. I'll one of the teams has included O.J. Simpson, J.P. Lossman, James Lofton, Thurman Thomas, and Jim Kelly.
Well, I definitely know Jim Kelly was on the Bills. I think I actually met him once.
Yep, it's the Bills.
Okay, so it was the Bills, and then who was the other team?
Okay, so the other team has included Michael Strahan, Eli Manning, Victor Cruz, and Saquon Barkley.
The Giants.
There you go. Bills and Giants.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, next one. All right. Right. In the movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, Jim Carrey's character is tasked with investigating the disappearance of an animal belonging to what team?
See, I saw that movie once a while ago.
I've only seen a little bit.
You had to find an animal for a certain team. I'm honestly not sure.
All right. So this team has included Dan Marino and Dante Culpepper.
Miami Dolphins.
There you go.
I was about to say, I definitely know who Dan Marino is.
All right. All right, I've got just one last one for you.
Okay.
All right. The film, which has been made twice to be clear, Brian's Song, tells the true story of NFL teammates Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers, who played together for which team?
See, this one I haven't really seen either. What team would they have been on? My first thought was the Falcons, but that's just a random shot in the dark.
No.
Okay. And I'm not sure where else to go with that, so what can you tell me?
Let's see. This team has included Rex Grossman, Jay Cutler. They were described in A Christmas Story as the terror of the Midway.
Oh, man, I don't think I ever saw A Christmas Story all the way through.
And they've also included Walter Payton, the legendary running back.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm trying to remember. I'm struggling, though. Which team is it?
Chicago Bears.
Oh, man.
Okay. Well, but 4 out of 6, you did good, though.
I mean, I had some help.
Yeah. True. All right.
Okay.
And you said you had a quiz for me, too?
Yeah, I got 5 questions here for you.
Okay.
First one, true or false? The Miami Dolphins are the only team in the history of the NFL to have a completely undefeated season.
Well, that would be technically false because them and the Patriots in like 08 went a full regular season and playoffs without a loss. But the Dolphins were the only pre-16 game era team to achieve a perfect regular season anyway. So false.
Okay, so it could be true or false depending on how you look at it, because they didn't lose an entire game that season, but it wasn't done the same way back then. And the Patriots were close, but then lost in the Super Bowl. So it technically could go either way. I'll give you the point on that one. All right. Question 2. How many Super Bowl wins does Tom Brady have? And this is regardless of what team he was on at the time.
Right. Because he's been on both the Pats and Buccaneers.
Exactly.
He's got one with the Bucks, a bunch of them with the Patriots. Like, let's see. Okay, let's see. He had 3 prior to Super Bowl 46, and then I believe he didn't get another win until 49, so that'd make 4, and then 51, 5, and then 53, 6, and okay, I'm going to have to say it. It's a total of 7.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
All right, so this next one is a little bit more open because there could be multiple correct answers for this. But name a team that to this day has not won a single Super Bowl.
Oh, I could probably name a bunch of these. Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
Chargers, I think, or maybe not. I don't know. Let's see.
I got a list right here, and Chargers are on there.
Cardinals, Titans, Texans.
I think I saw them on the list here. Hang on. Of course, it would freeze, but I'm pretty sure I saw them on the list. So yeah.
Bengals and Browns. I don't think they've won.
Yep.
Lions.
Yep, they haven't won either.
Jaguars.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might be all of them.
There was only there were one, I think, maybe 2 that I didn't hear. One being the Vikings.
Okay.
And then the other was the Bills.
Right. I should know that, shouldn't I?
And now this next one is a multiple choice, unless you know the answer right off the bat. Which NFL team is notorious for having gone to 4 Super Bowls in a row and lost all of them?
The Bills.
Yeah. So once you said that, I figured he probably knows this next one then.
Yeah.
Then the last one I have is, and this one's also multiple choice, so if you need me to list the options, I'll give them to you. Which NFL team is the only one whose official logo faces to the left? And this one may be a little bit tricky, as the logo is sometimes depicted facing the right.
Okay, so a face to the left. Okay. I haven't. I
can narrow it down to 4.
I have an idea. Yeah, I do have an idea, but just in case, I'll take the multiple choice.
Okay. So the 4 options are the Detroit Lions, the Arizona Cardinals, the Philadelphia Eagles, or the Kansas City Chiefs.
I want to say it's the Lions.
Nope.
Okay. Let's see. Eagles, Cardinals, or Chiefs. Okay. Eagles.
Yeah, it's the Eagles.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah,
fun
I didn't
little
think it
fact
was the
with that,
Cardinals.
yeah, the Cardinals does face to the right. But the fun fact with the Eagles logo, when it is facing the left, if you look closely, the three biggest feathers on the back of its head make a general E shape.
I never noticed that.
Well, it's not something people will typically look for, but if you look at the three biggest ones, it does kind of make an E, which
Okay.
probably also partly explains why it faces the left.
Okay, and we have just one last segment that we introduced last time. News that bites and or rocks. So news that bites meaning disappointing, angering, frustrating, or something like that. Or news that rocks meaning exciting, thrilling, not disappointing, exciting, thrilling, interesting, or something like that.
And it doesn't have to be necessarily a story found in the news. It could also be in our personal lives or somewhere else.
Or both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I brought one of each today, and I'm going to start with the news that bites, and it is about another TV commercial that I believe I saw during the game when I saw the Ram commercial that I complained about last time. Yeah. And it is a Home Depot commercial, and it bites for me for this one simple reason. It uses the song Joy to the World.
Okay, now what makes that bite for you?
It's a song about Jesus, and they're using it to sell hardware.
Well, honestly, it doesn't surprise me for a couple of reasons. One, because there's a lot of commercialism surrounding Christmas. And I think they just take the general idea of joy to the world and saying, like, this can bring you joy or something without really demonstrating what that song was originally about.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
But yeah, I can definitely understand where you're coming from on that.
Oh, all right. What about you? What's your news that bites?
Well, originally I was going to bring up the recent case surrounding Kyle Rittenhouse, but one, that topic is very controversial, and the last thing I want to do is spark too much controversy in a show like this when it can be avoided. And I also found something since thinking of it that I figured I would talk about instead. Because last night I was scrolling through TikTok and there was this guy who has, it's not severe, but it's a very slight speech impediment that keeps him from being able to properly pronounce his R's. And honestly, that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with it. But the reason why this news bites is because there was somebody who, with no provocation, no reason to do it whatsoever, was telling him that he sounded absolutely stupid. Like he sounded dumb. And that upsets me because bullying shouldn't ever be something that people do. And of course, it made me think of the times I was bullied. So I don't know how many people have seen it at this point, but I posted a response saying that I was very disappointed in the guy who was bullying him and that cyberbullying is a major problem and should never be done.
Dude.
Absolutely. He even made a video that kind of made me sad where he was walking through a mall. He's going up to a fountain with a coin and he just straight up says, "I wish I didn't have a speech impediment anymore." And it was in response to somebody else saying something very similar. So it's like people are just being really nasty.
Shifting to news that rocks, this one is a personal news that rocks for me. We are buying my car.
Is
The
it your first
car,
car?
this is my second one, actually. I've had it on a lease.
Oh,
It's
okay,
been
okay.
it's been a great car. It's been fun to drive, and my dad's been doing some number crunching or whatever, and figured out, well, we could afford to buy it and keep it longer, and we're gonna we're gonna purchase it. I'm gonna own it.
That's really cool.
Okay, well, you said you've got news that rocks too. Let's hear it.
Okay, so I don't know at what length I've talked about this before, but in previous episodes before our hiatus for the show that we were in, I was talking about how excited I was that my brother and my sister-in-law were having a baby, so that I was going to be an uncle. And as of the end of October, I can now say that I am a proud official uncle.
Yep, you are. Steve Smith and his wife have just
Mhm.
had a new daughter, and you shared a photo with a few of us, like just after we closed The Lion King when we went out to dinner. At
Yep. I think it
Yeah.
was an image of my brother holding her.
It looked like it was just her from what I remember, but I may remember wrong.
Well, it's understandable because I remember the picture I used. It did have all three of them in the shot, but I had zoomed in on the baby herself so that people could really see her.
Yeah, well, congratulations to the whole Smith family, really, and it's it's uh, good to know of the new addition.
Hmm.
And I think this is going to do it for now. Thanks everyone for streaming this, and be sure to check out any released episodes on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Facebook. And
Hmm.
and be on the lookout for many more episodes in the near future.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas, constructive criticisms, or you just want to say hi, feel free to contact us. We are able to reach out on multiple platforms. So honestly, we would just love to hear from you.
And I would like to personally hear more than I have. I've been asking people on Facebook, please, if you have any questions, send them. We want a very productive podcast.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, keep on the lookout for a new episode soon. Until then, we are out. We will see you.
Take care, everybody.